Welcome to another CEO Wisdom podcast. We have Dan Lorenzo with us. Lozano, sorry, I thought Lorenzo for some reason. Daniel Lozano with us. He's CEO at KindWorks.AI. He's live from Vancouver, Oaxaca, Mexico. Today we're going to talk about his startup, KindWorks.AI, which he's CEO and founder. Its mission is to encourage and enable kindness habits for billions, which is very interesting topic. This podcast is brought to you by podfire.com. If you want to start or scale or monetize your podcast, I can help you do that with my agency. It's called podfire.com. Dan, welcome to the pods. Tell me a bit more about yourself and about KindWorks.
So if you think, about the last time you did something kind for someone else, how did that feel? And I can see you already like nodding and smiling. It turns out that when you do these actions, it's one of the most powerful things you can do for yourself and others. Like there's a chemical reaction in your body that boosts the levels of serotonin and oxytocin. That is kind of when you boost your mood and have a positive mood and feel in love in some way. That's what happens when the oxytocin levels come up. And at the same time, the cortisol levels come down. That is the levels of stress in your body and other things. So it turns out that when you do something kind for someone else is one of the most powerful tools you have to feel and live and perform at your best. And when you do that at scale for organizations, it actually has a huge impact in terms of a boost in productivity of more than 800K per each 1,000 employees. It decreases absenteeism by more than 11%. That boosts in savings for more than 700K per each 1,000 employees, and talent retention, other things, morale, courage in your organizations. And what we've created at KindWorks is a platform that has a conversational agent named Benny that through WhatsApp, Slack, or MS Teams connects with each individual at companies and gives a specific acts of kindness that help people work, live, and deliver at their best. I'm Daniel Lozano. I'm born and raised in Colombia, did undergrad, master's in economics there, and at the same time worked in finance for 6 years as chief economist and head of strategy for a major asset management firm. And at that point, I was like, okay, it's great. You have your picture on the news, and at the same time, great income and other things. But I felt something was missing. And what was missing in my life was the impact I was having in the world. So I decided to go and do an MBA at Booth in Chicago. And there I understood that technology is what allows you to have a meaningful, significant impact in the world because of the scale, because the number of people you can touch. And I worked at Cisco after that in the Bay Area, in Palo Alto. And there I launched a 1.5 billion revenue product for as a product manager, and it was a great experience. I loved it, all the good stuff. And then the renewal of my work visa or work permit didn't come in time, so Cisco was graceful enough to say, okay, we're relocating you to London, which was a great experience. And in London, I also in the UK, I also did a master's in software engineering at Oxford at the same time, and I was president of the Artificial Intelligence Society at Oxford right before everything became AI and AI was cool. So I've been doing that. I would say I'm a little bit more of an AI dinosaur. I've been doing AI for a while. And in that moment, I also launched Cisco's biggest AI product in 2018 that uses all Wi-Fi data to predict when is the network going to break and fix it before it happens. And we get more than 1,000 enterprise customers. And they call me, from headquarters, and they tell me, it's like, we have so many clients right now that you need to be back, to San Jose, and you need to be back in headquarters, and we need to do it fast. They call me 3 months later and say, look, we tried doing all the immigration stuff. Unfortunately, it didn't work, and we can't wait for you anymore. And you're going to actually have to figure out what to do because your visa in the UK depends on Cisco. So in many ways, I'm sorry. Also, your partner had quitted her job, all the things, but there's nothing we can do about it. And, I was pretty lost in that moment. I was like, what am I going to do? So I took a flight to the Bay Area, to Palo Alto, in a storage room where I had left all my stuff because the plan was always to get back. And I start to take all the things out, and I find this bottle of wine that I go and give to the security guard. And in the moment I give that bottle of wine, I feel a powerful force coming to my body, coming to my belly, arms, mindset just completely shifted from the world is ending, everything is bad, to I'm going to make the impossible possible and everything's going to be fine. And I came from like a very stressed level to just being completely calm, right? Like my cortisol levels coming down. And the guy tells me, is like, I've been here 3 years. Nobody has ever done this for me. I'm going to have a date night with my wife. Thank you so much. But 2 weeks after that, I got 3 fantastic offers, one in Berlin, another one in Madrid, and one in Vancouver in Canada with the Amazon Alexa team. And paperwork executed in 3 weeks for me, my partner. Basically, everything that was bad went right. And there's something here that changed my life that I haven't been able to understand. And I start to look into the research, and I find out more than 300 papers that show that what happened to me is science, and that when you do something kind for somebody else is one of the most powerful tools we humans have to be and live at our best. And what I wrote at that moment is the idea of a platform with a conversational friend named Benny that uses AI to bring the most powerful acts of kindness to each single individual to help them change their life and live their lives at their best, performing at their best, having incredible results, having an incredible time at home. And, a year and a half later, when I was already in Canada in the middle of the pandemic and everybody was struggling, we launched KindWorks, January 2021. And we haven't stopped ever since. Today, we've created measurable, meaningful impact for more than 18 top enterprises across the world, across all the segments in terms of high performance, including top management consulting firms, top banks, beauty companies, government, agencies, education, law firms. I could go on and on, but the important thing is that we've proven that the power of kindness is universal and that it has a direct impact in the bottom line, and it helps organizations be more resilient, grow faster, sell more, and grow at an incredible pace. But most of it, giving the most valuable treasure that a company can give to their employees, that is the power to be kind and to practice their kindness and to feel and work better and live better.
Right. And how do you monetize that? Do you think companies, big dollar companies, will pay for this kind of emotional, non-rational stuff that they would mention?
So the cool thing about it is we've shown that there's a return on investment for the organizations, and that actually from a rational point, it's a no-brainer for companies to go and invest in KindWorks. When you invest in KindWorks, as I was mentioning, you have a boost in the levels of productivity that we've measured in more than 2 case studies. And for each 1,000 employees, there's a saving in productivity of more than $850,000. In terms of absenteeism or presenteeism, there's a decrease of 11% that leads to more than $700,000 of a boost in the levels of cost savings because of absenteeism and presenteeism for each 1,000 employees. And of course, talent retention, that's $200,000. So more than $1 million, right, that it brings in terms of ROI, in measurable results. From a rational perspective, it comes. But what excites me the most is from a personal perspective, and I think CEOs and boards and overall executives have understood that if their employees are in a much better place and they create outstanding results, the company overall is going to be, from a rational perspective, in a much better place. And that's where companies pay us. We have a very simple revenue model, $9 per user per month, or I would say barely a Starbucks, right, per user per month, which definitely creates a much higher result in terms of productivity, absenteeism, and retention than the investment the companies do on us.
And tell us about the product. It seems to be available on WhatsApp, Microsoft Team, and Slack. Is just a reminder from Benny to be kind. How does that work? How do you incentivize the user to be kind, which doesn't come natural to many?
So there's three components on our platform. Even before the integrations and the conversational agent comes in, we have a battery of content. That is the first component of our platform. So we put, content on the screens of the companies, emails, through all the communication channels of all the scientific evidence, the results we have. And so people don't think that it's a nice to have and not rational to do KindWorks, but actually, from a very rational perspective, as you go and do meditation, as you go to the gym, as you do activities to help you be at your best, you should do your kindness. And when people understand that purpose, then we do a launch, which is super exciting, where the conversational agent integrated into Slack or WhatsApp or MS Teams brings the specific acts of kindness that people start to complete and start to go on a journey where in each single moment, they are able to do more complex acts of kindness and start to transform their life. So every time you meet somebody like you today, Charles, you can practice an act of kindness. And I don't know, sometimes, you were doing some important, company stuff and you needed 15 minutes more, and practice your empathy, and put myself in your shoes. I like, of course, sometimes, things run longer and understand it. And now I feel the chemical reaction and I'm on a much better mood to have this podcast with you. And that's great.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it doesn't come natural to us, I guess. We get like so stuck up in the details, business is so rational, so planned, so scheduled. I guess women are better at empathy than men as well. Yeah, you
But
can't
the
never.
data shows no significant difference between them.
Huh,
Actually,
I would
the,
challenge
in
that like
terms of
100%.
empathy and other things, in our data, the thing is like those are biases sometimes society has, but when you put KindWorks and Benny available for everyone, you don't see any huge gaps or differences. Like the ability of, and basically what we've seen on the data is that kindness is like a sports contact, everyone can do it. And it's more on how much are you willing to, take the risk and do it. And the thing is like, once you do one, then it becomes more of a waterfall and snowball effect. And at the same time, in organizations, when people receive an act of kindness, they go and do two or three. So it becomes kind of an organization snowball effect, which is quite cool.
That's interesting. Yeah, as a man and a founder and an entrepreneur, I tend to fuel a lot more on not anger, but like this testosterone, this energy. I think that propels me, and it's really harder to find the same energy and in kindness. I try to be kind default state. I think I'm a nice person to deal with and to be around. It also depends on my physical state, right? Like if I did my sport, if I'm feeling well, if I did my meditation and so forth. So what are tips to be kinder that you would give us?
And then the third one would be kindness, right? So similar as you do your other things, kindness is not is a verb in some way. Like kindness should be an action. It's a contact sport. The more you do it, the better you feel, the better life you get. And
Right.
I don't know if you've read Dale Carnegie's book of How to Win Friends and Influence People, but there's a very beautiful message in that book that says like, don't try to fake it, right? Like people will figure out if you're just trying to be nice and on the outer, but deeply caring about every person, no matter if you've met with them before or not, and trying to be your best for them, and at service for them, and do something kind for them, and put yourself in other people's shoes. And something that is very important, that connects to what you were mentioning before, is niceness and kindness is very different. Kindness is deeply caring, about your team, about the people around you. And that means in many times, giving feedback, actionable feedback, taking the hard decisions, sometimes with empathy, thought, and commitment, letting people go and helping them find their next role. Like that's true kindness, when you deeply care about others, and sometimes you might say, look, I deeply care about you, and I think this company moving at this pace and this hustling might not be the best for you, right? And that's okay. And I'll help you find the next position, or in other places, just say, wow, You've done a great effort on this. I want to congratulate you and give you a shout out in front of the other team. So I think understanding that, like I was visiting University of Chicago a few months ago, because I'm going to be doing like teach a course and a module there next year. But Richard Thaler, the Nobel Prize and father of behavioral economics, has a very wise sign in his door that says, I'll do it tomorrow, and while the sun comes down, I'll make more excuses. And it's the same with kindness. There's no better moment to do kindness than the present.
Yeah.
For example, in this case, I'm going to do an act of kindness right now. Charles, it's been great and exciting to meet you, and for you to just go and do a podcast after racing around and doing all the accounting and running a startup. It's exciting, and I congratulate you for that. And already I feel better. So the thing is, in terms of empathy, in terms of sincerity, practice sincerity more than anything, with compassion and the other elements of kindness. And it's something that you can do in every single moment. And it's a contact sport, and everyone can do it.
Yeah, I'm grateful to have you too. That's for sure. Two insights me that I had when it comes to empathy. One is to take breaks. Like it's me. I did 100K in the last 2 weeks, and I had like this little retreat with my friends, and it really humbled me out. And then anyone that's launching a business and running a business like you, I mean, kudos, right? It's so fucking hard. So yeah, congrats to you for that. And the second one, I guess, is awareness, right? Because I do these acts of kindness, I think, naturally, but I don't take notice of them. So it's like second nature, right? And I think it's important to just like take notice of them and congratulate yourself for being a nice person, I guess.
No, and you're totally right in that sense that, even reflecting, and research shows that reflecting on kindness by itself, like the last time you did an act of kindness, when I asked you, you started smiling when we were doing this podcast, that actually has a chemical reaction. Like observing an act of kindness also has a chemical reaction. But it's an intentional thing that you can do every day. And what our platform does is it helps people start to incorporate those little actions one by one, and start that personal journey of transformation and impact, to bring your best self to the world.
I like it. I know you're on a timer here, but what are the next steps for KindWorks? You just raised, I think, like 1.3 million. What are your goals for 2025?
So yeah, we raised around a year ago and other things. This year we've grown more than 300% in terms of users and other things. It's working towards our long-term goal of impacting positively the life of 1 billion people. And in that means taking actions also on the short term to more aggressively grow the number of people we can change their lives and impact them positively. Continue to do changes on the product and advance, and overall bringing a more sustainable way of working and living for more and more people in a moment where the world has a high demand for kindness, and we need to bring it to as many people as possible.
I think it has a high need for kindness, but I don't think people want to be kind. And kudos to you for tackling that problem. I think it's extremely important. And if you start in the corporate world, then you can gain some traction and go into B2C eventually, because that's where the need is, right? Like with all the separation nowadays. And I'm also a strong believer in AI to humanify people, oddly enough. So very interesting business, Daniel. Where can people find out more about you?
They can go to our website, KindWorks.AI. They can, of course, follow our podcast on kindness in Spotify and Apple Podcasts. There's also a version in Spanish on kindness en español. And most importantly, connect with us with LinkedIn. We have a ton of resources of KindWorks.AI or Daniel Lozano as well. You can connect with me. And I'm always there, most of it to help. I think we need to drive this movement and transformation to the world with kindness, impact, and results.
That was Daniel